Hey everyone, this is Sarah Catherine, author of the blog Sincerely SC. I'm here today with indie pop musician Drew Anton to discuss his upcoming album, Fall from Grace, out this Friday, August 28th. Hi, Drew.
Hey Sarah Catherine, thanks for having me on your blog. I'm really excited to talk to you about all of this music.
Yeah, thanks for coming. I'm so excited to talk to you and learn more. So last year, I interviewed Drew for my first blog post highlighting his music and recent creative projects. And now, a little over a year later, Drew returns to the Sincerely SC blog with news of his latest project, Fall from Grace. So, Fall from Grace, Drew's first full length album, is bound to carry listeners out to a sea of ambience with its indie pop melodies. From start to finish, Drew weaves together themes of the soaring heights of love, the depths of betrayal, and the tender fragility of putting together the pieces after the fall. Fall from Grace is available for pre order on Bandcamp now and will be available everywhere August 28th. Drew, thank you for joining me, and I'm super excited to talk about your album.
Me
Um,
too. I'm ready
yeah.
to go.
So first off, how are you doing? The world's pretty like topsy-turvy right now, and the music industry has been one of the hardest hit by the shutdowns due to COVID-19. So how are you navigating this new world?
Um, Honestly, I'm kind of just trying to ride the wave like everyone else is. Um, it's cool because I've been working on this project for a little over a year now. So when the pandemic and everything started to set in and, um, the news was going crazy and everything, Um, it was hard to find a sense of normality anymore, because, like you said, the music world got hit pretty badly, and I've been working in live music events, so I lost my job actually.
Mm,
So it didn't really feel like life was normal anymore. But luckily, I had been already working, like I said, on this album for over a year at that point. Um, so that was the one thing that kind of helped me process everything and still have that little bit sense of normality, like I was still in the rhythm of something that I was doing. And it also gave me a little bit of a sense of hope because I had something to look forward to. Um, and as you know, and anyone who likes music, um, it really helped keep me grounded because um, writing music in general is very therapeutic and it helps you process things that are going on around you in the world. So I think, I mean, even though I'm not happy that everything happened and, people are struggling and everything that's going on, I feel really lucky that I was able to have this album to help me get through this time. And I'm really hoping that when people hear it, it gives them a little bit of a relief from all of the tension and stress and negativity that's happening. So, yeah.
yeah, yeah, I definitely know exactly what you mean. Like music has been getting me through these like rocky times too. And
Mhm.
sorry to hear about your job. But I guess it was good to have this project to, kind of give you something to work on and look forward to during those
Yeah,
times.
yeah. It worked out because with the way I was working before the pandemic happened, I was still working on this album at the same time. So it was challenging to find a balance between, working sometimes 16-hour days and then finding time to still record this album. So it was almost like a blessing in disguise that I got laid off for a few months. I actually just got my job back a month ago, so that
Oh,
was
that's
cool.
great.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So I
That's
mean,
good.
it's definitely not the same as it was. Like we aren't having live events really right now.
Mhm.
But I'm still doing some like technical audio visual stuff. But anyway, um, that was the one thing I was trying to have a different viewpoint of during the pandemic and quarantine that, you know, it was beneficial for me to have this time to really focus on this album. And because basically I didn't have any commitments for about 3 months. So I was just at home. So it was the perfect opportunity for me to finish recording this album. So it worked out, I guess, in that way. So,
Yeah, that's so funny because you just answered my second question,
oh,
was to ask if the pandemic aided your creativity at all, like having more time to dedicate to your music.
definitely, yeah, in that sense. But at the same time, I didn't really know what was going to happen for the next coming months, and in a way, it was almost challenging to dedicate the time to this album, even though I had the time at that point now. Finding the motivation was a little bit challenging at times, just because even though I was at home and I was able to record and spend all of my time and energy on the album, um, I was still very much aware of, what was going on in the world, and it really was impossible not to hear about the news and see everything all over social media. So I still definitely felt that burden and just, that negative energy from the unfortunate things happening. Um, so it was challenging to stay creative, but I really had to push myself because I wanted this so badly. And like I said, it was that one thing that was kind of keeping me grounded. So,
Yeah, wow, you're so good at this because my follow-up question was if it hindered your creative process
oh
at
my
all.
God,
How are you doing that? It's
I'm so
amazing.
sorry. I'm
No, it's
literally
so
ruining
great.
your question.
No, it's perfect. Like this is what I love about these interviews is like the conversation and
Yeah,
everything. And I know
yeah,
exactly what you mean because like I thought that too. I was like, I'll have all this time for personal projects, but I think everyone felt this way. Like it's hard to find that like motivation
definitely.
when like you have the time, but like things aren't normal. So it's like, what do you do with it?
Yeah,
Um, yeah. So, congratulations on finishing your new
thank
album,
you.
Fall from Grace. That's so exciting. So, you've been working on this album for over a year now, right?
Yeah, I started it in July of 2019. Um, I'm trying not to like jump ahead and answer any possible
It's
future
fine.
questions.
Go ahead. I definitely don't mind.
Okay. But yeah, I started it in July of 2019. We talked about this the other day, but I was rereading through the first interview we did, um, on my EP Perfect Stranger, which I released in March of 2019, so last year. And I'd mentioned that I was working on another EP that was supposed to be called Back to Me. And it's funny because I started to write for that. It didn't really have a clear direction. I kind of had um, a, a theme in mind. And I had about like a song or two written, but I wasn't like crazy about them. Um, and I started writing that in like May or June. But then in July of last year, I started to write this one song, and it wasn't related to this project. I just happened to sit down at my piano, and I was thinking about other things, and it kind of just came out within, like a half hour or so. It felt very natural, and I was really, really happy, and proud of how it came out. Um, and from that point on, I kind of shifted gears into this new project that I didn't really have in mind, or I didn't have it planned. And that song ended up being Thought of You, which is on Fall from Grace. So I would say that was really the beginning of this project, and it was unintentional since I was planning on working on a different project, and then everything just escalated from there.
Wow, that's again so funny because my next question was saying last time we talked, you had plans to release another EP back to me.
See,
Um,
we're so good at this.
we are. We're like on the same
We're in
wavelength
sync.
for these questions. We're in sync. um, so that's like you've answered that question perfectly. And I mentioned that too, like that you released a few songs before you announced Fall from Grace, like Thought of You. I think you had Fades to Gray and I'm Not Always Sad, but Sometimes I Am also on
Yeah.
your Bandcamp for a bit. And I noticed those were on the new album too. Um, so yeah, that does lead into my next question pretty well. That Fall from Grace has 17 songs, which is quite a lot, especially considering this is your first full-length album. So was having so many songs intentional, or did it happen organically as you came up with new song ideas?
It was completely organic. Um, a little bit on what you just said about the few songs that were out on Spotify before the album came out. So, like I said, I wrote Thought of You in July of 2019, and I didn't really have it as being attached to any kind of project, and I just wanted to share it. So, I put that one out by itself on Spotify. I think either at the end of July or August, but I think it came out at the end of July. Um, and then I kind of was beginning to like the sound and direction that that song was going in. So then, and like I said, that one just happened completely randomly and organically. And then in August, maybe like a week or two later after I put out Thought of You, I was just sitting on my bed one night. I had the window open and I heard some fireworks going off down the street. And I was, just playing random things on my guitar. And um, I had just gotten this new reverb plugin for my recording, and I was just playing around with it with my microphone and my guitar. And then I was also just feeling this melancholy way for some reason. I was, again, just thinking about random things that were going on at the time. And again, within like a half hour, I wrote a new song, and it was recorded in one take. I didn't edit it or anything. It just felt very natural to me in that moment. I was just, sitting by myself with my emotions and all of that. And I ended up recording I'm Not Always Sad, but Sometimes I Am, which is the third track on the album. And then I put that one out too on Spotify. So I had just these random songs that still weren't really attached to something, but that's kind of how the ball got rolling. Um, Going back to your actual question, I ended up with 17 because they all happened like this, starting with Thought of You and then I'm Not Always Sad, but Sometimes I Am. They just happened in the moment organically, based on the things that were going on in my life over the past year. Um, and once I had a certain amount of songs, I think I was like, okay, I have about 9 songs. So I definitely knew it wasn't going to be an EP at that point. I was like, okay, maybe I can do a full album. So then I said, okay, I think 9 is okay. But then I just kept writing and I wasn't even trying to. Like, if I would just sit at my piano or my guitar, a song would just pop out of me, which was really cool to look back now that I was that inspired all of the time. Because sometimes it's really hard as a writer to get out a song because, writer's block. And that's why I try not to write if I'm not really feeling inspired by something because I don't want it to sound forced. And I really just want to be authentic to myself and my music and what I'm sharing with people. So, like I said, I just kept writing and writing, and over, I guess, I want to say a little over a half of a year, I just kept writing, and that's how I ended up with all 17.
Wow, that is amazing that you're able to come up with things that organically and that it just comes to you like that. Like that's the talent, really.
Thank you.
My personal favorites on the album are You Make It So Easy, Head Over Heels, I Think I'm in Love, and Yours Tomorrow, Yours to Keep. But it's really impossible to pick favorites because they're all so good. And I
Oh,
just love the
thank
whole
you.
album as a whole. Um, I remember in our last interview, we discussed how storytelling is a key part of your songwriting. And listening to Fall from Grace from start to finish definitely tells a story about love, loss, and putting together the pieces. Um, so can you describe your songwriting? Well, I guess you already did describe your songwriting process for the album. Could you go into a little more detail about the story you want to tell?
Yeah, definitely. So like I just said, all of these songs happened really organically. The first couple that I wrote, like I said, were kind of just random. They definitely had to do with what was going on with my life at the time. Um, but once I got the ball rolling with everything, that's when I started to um, get this idea of what I wanted to say as I kept writing more. Um, so then I began to think about what I wanted to say if I was doing a full album. And um, it was a little bit tricky at first because the songs were kind of mixed in tone and I guess meaning. Like, for example, Thought of You was the first song I wrote for this album, and it's a love song. Um, but then a few weeks later, when I wrote I'm Not Always Sad, but Sometimes I Am, that one was about something I was still kind of struggling with. It was almost like it was a continuation of what I was saying in my Perfect Stranger EP. Um, so it was almost like a continuation of that story. And then a few months later, I ended up writing Fades to Gray, which is also another love song. So I kind of had this dichotomy of love in a hopeful, positive way. And then I had another collection of songs that was writing itself about kind of heartbreak and, just the misery that I was still trying to process from stuff that was happening from 2018 to 2019. So I had to figure out how to organize this collection into one body of work that flowed and made sense with one kind of solid message. So I started to think, and I honestly didn't meditate much about the title at all. It was really weird. I actually don't specifically remember the day or how I came out with the title Fall from Grace, but it kind of just happened. Like I was just thinking like what would I call this? And then for some reason like that just came to my head, Fall from Grace. So I just was like, okay, I like how that sounds. And then as I wrote the rest of the songs, it was really weird how they kind of made sense with that title. And then I began honing in more specifically about the theme behind it. So, like you said, it's definitely about putting together the pieces of, the heartbreak and the deepest lows I was experiencing from, what I was writing about in Perfect Stranger and what was still lingering from that, but then also looking forward to the future, which is why I had all of those love songs and, the new people and places I was experiencing that were inspiring those more positive songs that were really changing my perspective and kind of opening my heart back up again to life and that kind of thing. So that's kind of how I was able to organize everything into one body of work. Um, so yeah.
Nice. I love that about the album that you can kind of see the progression in the songs too, the way you organized it, that, it kind of starts with that heartbreak and stuff and then like moves on to the healing and then the hope. And I really love that
Yeah.
about the album. It's so cool.
Yeah, that
Um,
was a really fun thing for me to organize the songs because as you know, I've only done an EP before and that's only like 3 or 4 songs. So it's very
mhm.
easy to just put those there because there's not much to I mean EPs you can still tell a story with obviously, but it's a much smaller body of work. So when I had 17 songs, I had to figure out how to put them in a way that flowed and made sense with the story I was telling. And again, it's funny, like everything else up to that point, I didn't really think about it hard. It kind of just happened itself in the way I ordered them. But the opening track, the first 2 tracks basically are a little bit about self-realization. So it starts the ball rolling. The self-realization actually combined both themes. So it combined the sorrow and heartbreak and misfortunate stuff I was feeling, but also it was referencing the love a little bit that I was looking forward to. So I kind of organized it that way. It starts with the self-realization, then it goes through, processing the lingering sadness I was experiencing with a new angle, actually, which I had never written about before. Um, I was able to express some anger in this section with the songs You Make It So Easy and I Don't Care, and also even Head Over Heels for You. I never really expressed anger before in my music, and it felt really good and important to the album because it was just another aspect of me processing my feelings, and kind of closing the chapter on all of the stuff I talked about in Perfect Stranger and up until this point. Like, I still had a little bit left to say of that story and just process it all and say, you know, I'm in a better place now. Um, so that was why I put that there. And then everything right after that last sad, angry song, it goes into the interlude. And I used that interlude to separate kind of the beginning and then the rest. Because everything after the interlude is all about the love songs. So that's how I did that.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely noticed that was like the break in the middle. And that's
Mhm.
great that you were able to like, process all those different emotions that you feel like that you were feeling during that time, and really let it inspire your work. Like that's so cool.
Thank you.
What's your favorite song or songs from the album?
Oh gosh. um,
Tough
it's
question.
yeah, it's funny because I kind of thought this question would come up and I was trying really hard to think about it. Um, it changed a little bit during the recording process because I mean, whenever I write a new song that I really love and I'm proud of, I'm like, oh, this is it. I'm like, this is my favorite thing that I've written so far, which is a really cool feeling as a songwriter because I really feel a sense of growth. Um, because sometimes it's really hard when you're trying to write something and you don't feel really proud of it. It's a hard feeling because you know what you want to say, but it's not exactly coming out in the way you want it to, or having the impact that you want it to have, that you think the song deserves to have, but it's just not there yet. So I was really thankful for this album that I didn't really run into that problem too much. But I think as of now, let me think. My favorite songs. Um, Definitely, I would have to say, I think I'm in love. That one was a lot of fun to write. And I really got to explore um, new elements sonically. I was playing with a lot of different sounds on this album, which was really cool to explore. So definitely, I think I'm in love. Um, what else? I Don't Care was a lot of fun because as you know, a lot of my normal music, at least music before this project, it's kind of slow and it can be sad. I joke around and call it sad boy music. Um, it's kind of acoustic based, you know. I use a lot of piano, acoustic guitar, different like light ambient synth stuff. It's very low key, chill, and it's based on more on the lyrics and just getting out that raw emotional side of me. So for this album, I wanted to have something different that people wouldn't expect from me. So that's why I have some songs like I Don't Care. And it just has so much energy to it, which was why it felt really good to have those kind of angry emotions expressed too, because it just went really well with the music that was more energetic and loud, and um, it suited the lyrics better. As where if I tried to do that with a slow song, I don't think it would have come across the way I wanted it to. So that's really why I love I Don't Care. Um, and then Fall from Grace, the title song. Um, Really, I love that song because it kind of just wrapped up everything I was trying to say in one song. So that's why I love that one too. But it's
Nice.
always changing.
Yeah, I bet. I Don't Care is definitely like a fun song. Like it's been stuck in my head all week.
Oh, thank you.
It's so catchy and it's a great song. And it's great that you brought up Fall from Grace, because my next question was how the theme of grace comes up multiple times throughout the album, in the title track, and the first track is also called Grace.
Yes.
And I feel like I've heard the word grace mentioned in a few other songs in the lyrics. So how does the overarching theme of grace tie into the story?
That is a great question. So, again, it kind of goes with both sides of the album, in terms of all the sorrow I was going through, and also with the love and the hope for the future. So, in terms of the self-reflection and the sorrow I was experiencing, um, the idea of grace was really important to me because, as you know, and anyone knows, it's so easy to criticize yourself for whatever. And sometimes it feels like you're criticizing yourself for everything that's happening. Um, so I really wanted to talk about the struggles I was going through, but in a new light, which I really resonated with and felt now, where I was beginning to have grace for myself. Like in terms of the self-realization, it was really important to me to try to be easier on myself and I guess forgive myself in a way for many things that I held over my head that weren't necessarily in my control, but it was just easy for me to blame it on myself. So I wanted to talk about having grace for myself. In terms of the sad songs about heartbreak and the anger, um, even though it might not come across this way, it was also a way for me to have grace for the people I was writing about as well and the situations I was experiencing, um, and also having grace on the overall situation, which is why I mentioned how it's kind of a closing of a chapter, um, and accepting things for what they are, because it's really hard to hold on to anything that's pressing on your heart like that. So the idea of grace was really important in that way. And in terms of the title, Fall from Grace, um, that kind of came in because you'll see in the first song, like you heard, I say that I used to think that I had everything. And for a while, I thought everything in my life was going really well and it couldn't get better than it was. And then a bunch of stuff was happening that I just felt like I was losing complete control. And it was also because it's a religious reference too, an angel falling from a high place, and it kind of all tied in that way. Just hitting the ground really hard after you're in such a high place, and just having that shock of reality that things are different now, and you have to, like you said, pick up the pieces from where you are. But then tying into the title from the other perspective, which is what the love songs talk about. I say that I would fall from grace to have that love, to have that thing that I really want. So in that sense, it's saying that I would purposely lose everything great, or what I thought was great, that I thought I had, to have something even better. So that's kind of how the title and the theme really came together in that way, and the word grace.
That's awesome. Yeah. I love that about how grace takes like so many different meanings throughout the album. And I think that's a great message about like, being graceful to yourself, grace to others, even those who have like hurt you. And then definitely that feeling of a love that's so strong that like you'd be willing to risk it all, and fall from grace, like you said, for that love. Like that's an amazing message.
Thank you.
So last time we spoke, you talked about how you studied music production in college. Fall from Grace has such a professional, dynamic sound. And I noticed there was some collaboration on the album with some of your friends helping to mix and master it. And then one song features your friend Rebecca Perry, Love Don't Always Have to Work That Way.
Mhm.
So, what was the process behind making and producing the album like?
Oh my goodness. So this was both so fun, but also a lot of work that was really crazy sometimes. So I wrote everything on this album and I recorded it myself from my computer at home, um, which was really cool. That's what I usually do, which is why whenever I write music, the whole experience just feels really personal to me because I'm just doing everything myself. And I'm really grateful for school for that as well because I was able to receive that education to help enhance my passion already. So, and it was cool because also I was able to network with a lot of my friends that I met at school who also shared the same passion, who are really talented. Um, so, usually my process when I record an album or an EP or whatever the project is, I'll write and record everything myself, and I'll mix it to a point where I'm happy with the foundation, basically, of how it sounds. And then I'll send it to my friend Joe, who is also a music production major, and he takes it to that next step with the mixing. Um, he kind of cleans it up a bit and polishes different areas that I mention. I might ask him to fix a few things. Um, and he's just so talented and patient. So what I would do is I would finish the song on my end, and then I would send it to him um, on Google Drive or something like that, um, which is kind of challenging sometimes when you're working remotely with somebody because files can get messed up, and we had to fix a lot of things and go back. And I'm really thankful for him because he was super patient for over a year while I worked on this, and he was so understanding and dedicated to my process and what I wanted from these songs. So I'm super grateful to get to work with him, and he's just, like I said, so talented. And then I would take what he would send me and I would send it to my other friend Ian, which is funny because Ian and I have never actually met because he
Oh,
graduated.
interesting.
Yeah, he graduated a year before we did. And I believe he was also a music production major. But I had actually virtually met him after I released the Perfect Stranger EP, because he added me on Facebook and messaged me about how he really liked the EP, which was super kind. And then we were just talking a lot, and we ended up working together after that. Um, and he's exceptionally talented at mastering, which is basically, if anyone doesn't know what mastering is, it's that final, basically polish of a song, just making sure everything sounds okay, the volume level's okay, and that basically it's ready to be listened to either on, someone's device or even on the radio. It's just that final polishing layer. Um, so then I would send everything when I was done to him, uh, to put that final coat on. Um, so that was basically the technical aspect of the collaborating. And then I wasn't going to have any features on this album because my music in general is very personal to me. It's me telling my story. Um, but I ended up talking to my friend Becky about this one song, Love Don't Always Have to Work Like That. And the message really resonated with her. And I was like, it would be really cool to have you on this song because I've been friends with her for about 10 years now, so a whole decade. And she's just so, so, so talented. Her voice is incredible. She also writes music and is on Spotify. Um, so I thought it would be really fitting to have her on the song because I know she really felt what the song was talking about too. I mean, we had talked about it several times during the course of our friendship and as we got older. So it felt naturally right to have her on the song. So I sent that to her, and then she would record her part and then send back the audio to me. And then I would just basically throw everything together and mix it. And then, the technical process continued from there for that song. But that's how that collaboration came to be too. So.
Nice. That's
Mhm.
really cool. That just seems to like define the way the world is now with like you hadn't even met your one friend to like collaborate with, and yet like now he's helped out so much with the album. Like
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Yeah, it's
Um,
really cool.
yeah. And yeah, that song that you and Rebecca sang together is like such a cool song. I love the message. And I also love the kind of, acoustic version that you did on Instagram TV. That was pretty cool.
Thank you.
So I so want to go into more detail about some of the songs, but I think I'll save that for part two of our interview after the album's released, so listeners can have a chance to, hear the songs themselves. So I'll just ask for now, what do you want your listeners to take away from Fall from Grace?
Um, that's a good question. Um, I mean, for me, speaking for myself, this album, like I touched on before, was really a way for me to process my emotions, but also recall and really live in the moment of everything I was experiencing in real time while I was writing these songs. Um, so it was really just a way for me to story tell, but also recap and really embrace my life and the people I was talking to and meeting and the places I was going to and how everything was making me feel. Um, and it gave me a lot of hope because I'd never really been able to write love songs before. Like I said before, as a joke, I write sad boy music. So it felt really good to be in this place where I am now. So I think I would like people to take away that no matter what you're going through, no matter how hard it is, no matter how bad it seems at that time, and it doesn't feel like things can get better, um, I really just want to instill that message of hope that, things can get better. You might have to fall from that place where you think you're untouchable to get to a better place, and just to have forgiveness and grace for yourself and for other people, um, and just to have hope that things will get better. And yeah, I would say that's my message of the album. So I think that's what I would want people to take away from it.
I love that message. That's a great message.
Thank you.
And definitely one that I think like is needed during these times. So it's great.
Definitely.
So those who pre-order the album on Bandcamp will receive an exclusive album lyric and picture booklet. So any info you can give away about this booklet, or is it a secret?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. I won't go into too much detail because we can talk about all of the the imagery more deeply in the next part of the interview. But in reference to your previous question about collaborations, um, I had the idea for this booklet back in the fall. Um, I wanted to incorporate a visual element for this body of work this time. I never really done that before. So I ended up reaching out to someone again from school that I knew through one of my roommates. And she's very, very talented at photography. Her name's Angelica. Um, and I reached out to her, and she totally, totally took in my vision um, for what I wanted to do with this album. So we did this photo shoot, and I compiled some of those images with the lyrics for these songs, and I turned it into a picture and lyric booklet. And because everything's online, especially right now, um, I thought it would be cool to distribute that with the album. Basically, like when you get a CD and it comes with the cool booklet you can look at, just to have um, a deeper insight on the album and some of the inspiration and the visuals and all the imagery I had while I was writing it. So I thought that was a fun idea. So that's why I created that for the album. So when people pre-order it on Bandcamp, they'll be able to get that, and it's about 40 pages. So it took a while for me to make, which is really cool to figure out how to do that as well. So I hope people can enjoy that too.
Wow, nice. This is such an amazing project. Like so many different parts to it is cool, and that's one of my favorite things about like the indie music and art community is like all the collaboration and everyone working together. So that's really exciting. Um, So yeah, that's it for my questions. And like Drew said, you can pre-order Fall from Grace on Bandcamp now and can stream it on Spotify and get it on Apple Music, iTunes, and everywhere else August 28th. Stay tuned for part 2 of this interview, where Drew and I discuss more about the messages behind Fall from Grace and the visual elements of the project. Thanks again, Drew, for sitting down and talking to me. I'm so excited for your album to come out this Friday.
Of course, it's my pleasure to be here talking to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.